Hi YouTube, Brian Phillips here with the Cessna 182 UMX. We're just about ready to get some flaps going on this thing. This would be technically part 4 of the proof of concept video, but I believe this is going to be a new video series called Flaps Install. And so far what we've done is we've got our DX18 bound to this DSM-X receiver, and you guys can see this all happen and unfold in real time on part 1, 2, and 3 of the proof of concept video revisited. And we also have this hooked up to a Hextronics 500 5 gram servo. It's actually a little bit more than that. And we have taken the wing off so we can get down to where our wires are. You can see where we tap power here to go into this channel. And there's another unused channel in there. And what really kills me about this whole process is that there's literally 2 spare channels. Well, there's 1 spare channel, and then the 1 channel is just being used by safe. And so as a result, we got to make do with what we got. So we have to put our own receiver in here, which is going to pull power from probably that unusable port right there. So that might be the next thing that we get ready to start doing. And really, in terms of what we've got done on the flap install, it's very limited. We've just got the proof of concept for the electronics figured out. And that's the only part that we haven't established for sure, is that we're going to be able to power this off of the other receiver board's available power. So that's what we're going to start doing now. And as soon as that soldering iron gets hot, we're going to go ahead and make a cable. I sort of hate to tear this up. In the proof of concept video, I was talking about how I wanted to take out these pins to mitigate some of the weight that we're going to be adding to the plane. Because right now we're up to about 11 grams. It's just kind of a lot. Given the empty flying weight, this airplane weighs about 102 grams. Now, add into that a 2S lipo, and you're up to about 118 grams. So you're adding about 10% of the weight, or not quite 10%, in doing this only. So it'd be really nice if we could limit the weight some, but we don't want to lose the bind plug. We don't mind losing the middle pin, because that's going to do us no good in this application. And we certainly could actually hardwire this servo, because obviously all this stuff could be mounted fairly close. But that's just something, again, I'll come back to as we continue this process. I think at the next step I need to do is get the mechanism and the linkage established. But like I said, I do need to make sure I can run this. So I've got the soldering iron heating up, and we can dig into our bag of goodies here. We've got some ultra micro cables that we have at one point or another cut off. Oh, there's one right there. Okay, so we should be able to grab that. And what we can do is, incidentally, since we're not going to be using the signal wire, and we especially actually don't want to be using the signal wire, which is going to be your lightest color, it's going to be your orange. What we're going to do is we're going to actually take and eliminate the connection from this plug. So we're just going to undo it. And then we're just going to take the brown and red. So the easiest way to do that is to take an X-Acto knife or something with a finer tip, and you can actually lift up. So move you guys up a little bit. And I just wanted to apologize on that last video. I didn't realize, but I had knocked the camera and I was blocking the speaker. See how that works, guys? You can just pull that right out. And I'm going to keep that because it's always good to be able to tap into other stuff later. Okay, so now in a purely modular install, I would put on a connector like this, and then those would come in and slide into any of the 2 pins on any of these all the way through the batch here. Or I could actually put them into the wires of the servo itself. But I don't know that we need to add that much weight. I really don't think we're going to get away from not losing this weight. You can buy these, by the way, without pins, but I don't know if you can get them in the DSMX setup. I keep coming back to it, guys. I'm just going to have to do it. I'm not real excited about it. It makes me nervous because I could screw this thing up. And if I do, that would really stink. But you know what? No pain, no gain, right? I just got to get this thing out of the way. Sorry, guys. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and... I still need to verify this is going to work, though, guys. In fact, I think I got a little pigtail in here. I should be able to use a pigtail. That one's screwed up. I don't want to use that one. I'm sure I got something in here I could use. Quick and easy. Got a bind plug there. This servo doesn't work. I'm not sure why, though. So I might be able to save it. I kind of tend to be a pack rat, you may have noticed. Oh, look at that. There's one. There's one. Must have come out of an extension cord. Okay, cool. So I can actually just plug in. So on a normal servo cable, this would go on like that. And so the ground for us is going to be, let's just say we put the ground here, and let's just say we put the power anywhere else on the middle pin, but far enough away so we don't accidentally bump them. Now I can take this wire and cut it in half, and I can strip the ends back just a wee bit. And this is, again, just to make sure this is going to work before we get too excited on starting to solder things in, cutting components off and making this thing useless on another project. Okay, so we'll tin these up real quick. Okay, got a little tinning going there. Got a little tinning going here. And we'll get a little bit of tinning going on these too as well. Shouldn't take much to hold those on there for the sake of testing. Okay, so ground is going to be this one. Just touch those two together. And this one's going to be positive for power. Touch those two together real briefly. Okay, so we'll be able to pull some power now from our other receiver. And all we've got to do is just kind of keep these from touching, and sometimes the easiest way to do that, just grab a small little piece of tape, fold over the tip, fold over the back, and just throw a little bit of tape in between there. Cover up one of the two. Okay, so then we can take our forceps with a bent tip, and we'll reach down into the airplane, paying special attention to which way the tab goes. These things only go one way. And we're just going to make sure we can power this off of the stock setup. Okay, so it's plugged in. Now remember, we're just pulling power there. That's it. 100% it. That's it. Nothing else. Okay, so now let's get the radio fired up, get the battery plugged in, and we'll do our last verification. Okay, 2S pack. think we have the wire tucked back away for some reason, which is fine, I guess. I'll go ahead and pull that back out so we can get to it when we need to. And just close the door, it'll kind of hold it there for you then. So obviously there's a pretty significant amount of redundancy here going on. So just trying to double check if I've got my polarity correct. Yeah, it looks like we're correct on the brown wires going down there to this. And the positive wires going to something else. I don't think it needs to be the same. In fact, I'm pretty sure it doesn't need to be. But it's not waking up the receiver. So that's, maybe this port is totally inactive here. And we could fairly easily test that. But before we do that, why don't we'll just hook these up. See if we can get them side by side without having any risk of them shorting out. Looks like we're fairly far apart. Yep, brown is definitely on the bottom. Red is definitely in the middle. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll unplug my lights where I've established for sure that we have power. Okay, so that unplugged, shut off the lights. Okay, so we want the brown to go toward the nose of the aircraft. Just make sure we're not going to short anything out. Definitely attached. So that's interesting. I wouldn't call it real great. I knew there was a possibility we'd have an issue here, but I kind of figured this part would be pretty safe. Okay, so let's go ahead and tap and see what our voltage is. DC voltage here. We don't have any voltage. Maybe I didn't get a good solder joint. That would really be a big relief, actually. Because this should be working. They're definitely wired up the same way. Let's go ahead and pull this out. Maybe I'm just not getting it plugged all the way in, too. Red is definitely attached there. Definitely going into that pin. The middle one, which would be red. And the brown is definitely attached. I have to assume we're making good contact. Maybe there's too much load for one servo port. That seems a little strange to me. Okay. Looks like... Well, that's weird. The red is on the middle on this. Look at that, guys. The red is on the middle pin on that. And the red on mine, it's also in the middle. Okay, that made me very nervous for a second. Okay, let's try plugging it back in. Okay, let's plug the lights into the other one just to see if they'll work. on the other port. Yeah. Okay, so we have power on both plugs, which is good to know. So now the next test is going to be a little bit more definitive here. I'm going to actually just land this right there. And then I'm going to land this right there. And then we'll just keep those two from getting close enough to touch. We're going to plug in, and then we won't have any real load on there then. So we can keep those apart. What the heck? Why am I not getting voltage, guys? Look, I got no voltage here. That is totally weird. But that's good. That means that I don't have like a problem with my plant. I just have a problem with this connector, or something is different about it. Or I got like a especially bad solder joint here. Alright, we're gonna look at this. I'll come right back to you. Alright guys, so I just resoldered my negative wire. I felt like maybe there was a little something not going right with that. So let's get that plugged back in. And then I just taped it up a little bit better. And we need the brown wire to go toward the nose of the aircraft. So we'll go ahead and grab out of this with our forceps. Okay, so we're definitely plugged in. We're definitely making contact here. But we're definitely not turning on, which is definitely annoying. Alright, I have to double check something on another lemon receiver. Do I have another lemon receiver? Shoot, I don't have one right there. Right, easy to find. Let's test voltage again. We'll just unplug that. This looks like the bottom pin is our negatives, so we'll go ahead and latch onto that very carefully. And we'll go up to the middle line by touching the middle. There is still no voltage. What the heck? This is so strange, guys. Oh, it's not even plugged in. Holy crappers. Well, that explains it if it's not plugged in. I thought it was plugged in, guys. Guys, come on. Like, why are you not plugged in? What is wrong with you, you stupid thing? Is it not plugged in now? I don't know how it could not be plugged in. Sure appears to be plugged in. Evidently it's not. And we know that the LEDs are turning on. Let's know with a reasonable level of certainty that we're getting power on this at the board. We just don't. Nothing. What the heck? Okay, guys, I'm gonna pause it. I'll come back and tell you what I found. Alright, guys, I found out what was wrong. One of my leads was bad from here to here, so I threw it away. That was super frustrating. I spent like the last 20 minutes trying to figure that out. And you know, you don't want to have to figure stuff like that out. You want to be able to assume certain things are just right from the get-go. So now I'm going to put a little heat shrink over here just so I don't break these connections. Even if I end up soldering it on, it doesn't really matter. So you just have to have a piece of heat shrink that's a little bit bigger than this connector, so these green will work. And there's hardly any needed there, So we'll clip off a couple of short chunks of that. And this is one of those, like, as a means to an end, I put the heat shrink on, because really I don't want to have the heat shrink, but you need something to relieve the pressure on these cables, or they'll be very, very weak. And a very, very weak cable might survive you know, getting bumped into a handful of times, but this is a little UMX plane. I do not want to open it back up unless I absolutely have to. And I sort of hate to do this without having guarantee that it's going to work, but whatever, I guess I kind of got to do it. So heat up the heat shrink. That's going to help to bear the mechanical load on this connector, or on this connection, the solder joint here. And incidentally, it's probably a good thing I don't have too long of a connection here, because it's just going to add weight to the plane anyway. I hate having to build these little custom connectors, but I mean, I know how to do it and everything, but it's always a pain to have to do that. And coming full circle, it'd be sure nice if Horizon would just put these into the planes, because they know we're... I mean, there's got to be a certain level of demand for it, because I demand it and other people demand it. So now let's go ahead and see if I have some... Nah, we'll just use a little bit of black tape for this part, for this test. Because really all we're doing is we're just separating the two. We may end up soldering these on at some point. So we just want to make sure with 100% certainty that we're not going to break these things. Excuse me, that we're not going to have an issue with short-circuiting our connections. Okay, so the bottom one's black, or in our case it's brown, and then the top one, or the middle one's red. And so really, like, these things won't touch each other, but I just want to be 100% sure. And if I end up keeping all these connectors on here and just grin and bear the extra weight, which I'm sure the plane could handle it, just more a matter of I don't want to have to handle it necessarily. Okay, so now this wire is fairly robust. I can move this, but this wire I really want to mitigate the movement if I can. And hopefully this will work. I ended up bringing the F-16 over because I was trying to work on it, and look what I did. I broke off one of the ports just testing. Isn't that super annoying? So now I got to try to resolder that on there. It's going to be a real daydream. So that's one of the prices you pay when you work with this ultra small crap. I don't know how these guys do it when they're making this stuff, but I think a lot of times they're doing solder baths. Okay, so I've got a hold of it. Finally, my plan has come together. And look at this, guys. Oh yeah, baby. And you can see obviously that there's light on there. Now, before we get any further, and then ailerons, everything's working, okay? I knew that would work. I knew it. It's just sometimes the practical realities, like having bad wires that are only this long, what are the chances, right? Uh-oh. Stop your flashing. Okay, so I'm Cessna DSMX. Okay, hold on. I got to figure out what's going on now. I wonder if this is creating too much impedance or acting like a bind plug, because I am on the bind plug here. I don't think that matters, but I'm going to go ahead and move to a different port just to be on the safe side, because I didn't think a thing of it, but I guess maybe that makes a difference. I doubt it does. Oh, that son of a gun. Okay, so obviously we're still bound, but it's not going to work for us. so I have to come up with another solution. I'm getting sick of coming up with solutions. Okay, so we clearly have power here. If I wanted to unplug power here, I want to test one other thing. It's definitely plugged in. Okay, now I gotta figure this out. So I'm gonna unplug the power. What if I just go ahead and try rebinding it with the fail-safe conditions the way I want? Just for grins and giggles to see how this turns out. I guess I could do that. Why don't I just do that and we'll see how it goes. Now we're in a level condition. Oh! Okay, I'm not sure what changed there. Okay, so what exactly changed, guys? I didn't see anything change. Did you see anything change? I didn't see anything. Let's try it again. Okay, maybe I was up at an angle and that was preventing it, or maybe I was too close. See, I'm at an angle. Maybe that's preventing safe. No, it's initiating. So what the heck, guys? Alright, this makes me a little bit nervous. I have to come up with a solution, because once I glue this all back together, I don't want to have to open it up to like unplug something. So I'm wondering if maybe I need to wire in a very small micro switch in one of these two wires so that I can open up the switch. The other thing is, what if I need to bind it again? This will be bound, that's no problem at all, binding the airplane, but then binding the flap switch. Like if I had a problem with my radio and I had to replace it. Which would be horrific. But suppose I did. That would suck. Okay, so let's try fail-safe real quick. Okay, so currently we're pitching. Safe is off. Safe is on. Okay, so safe is off. You should hear safe kick on when I do this. Okay, safe is on. See, off. This is fail-safe, guys. No controls getting through. Now let's turn it back on and see what happens. Okay, I need to reconnect here, and we're reconnected. Safe is off. Safe is back on. Safe is off. Control is regained. Alright, guys. I don't know how to explain what just happened there. I'm inclined to just say it is what it is and move on. But the other thing I could do is I could make an access to get to this stuff from the top, which might not be a bad option either. And just kind of cheat it into fake panel lines or something. Alright, I'm going to think on this for a minute. The other thing I got to figure out is, in terms of CG, I always had a pretty good time with this plane. Never really had a big issue on CG. So now that we've got this proof of concept done, I could figure out a place to mount that receiver. Which, you know what? I was just talking about having an access on one of the panel doors. This is a doorway. I could trim this window. Even though there's some strength and rigidity here, I could take a hot knife and I could cut here and then cut here and leave this attached, and I could give myself a crease and put one small piece of tape over that, and then that would give me an access to get in there and unplug stuff. That might be the ticket, guys. And it doesn't have to be the passenger side, it could be the driver's side. Of course, there's not really a passenger driver side. I guess the pilot sits over here on a Cessna 182. I don't want the whole door to open because it's structural strength from the foam there. So it's just going to be the window. I could also just cut the window out just cut a portion of the window out altogether, tape it in, and then have that accessible by cutting if I need to get in there. Well, anyway, guys, Flaps Mod Part 1, Proof of Concept Part 4, depending on how I end up numbering these. Thanks a lot for watching. That was a super frustrating experience for everybody, as is typical on these mod videos. But all I can say is, we got flaps. We're going to get there. We're getting there, guys. Don't quit yet. I haven't. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.